Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran. Today we'll be taking a look at the Shaman legendaries available in the alpha. This is early alpha legendary, and the legendary effects are not tied to items. It's something that you can kind of enchant onto gear in Shadowlands. So legendaries are coming back like Legion, but they'll be worked differently. There won't be any RNG. You'll be able to select which secondary stats you want. Right now in the alpha you have to go through a 1 hour quest session in order to be able to unlock it, but I still want to make as many videos on legendaries early, just so we have an early look at what these effects look like. Shaman's got some really strong effects, especially if you're Enhancement and Restoration, and some of the base non-spec specific are really strong as well. And some just feel broken beyond belief. Also, check out this mog. I don't know how I got all these pieces. I guess some of the dungeon gear finally now gotten models for it, and I was able to put together this mog. I mean, this doesn't even look like a shaman. It looks like something out of Destiny 2. But today I'm going to be taking a look at some of the shaman legendaries in order to see what are some of the effects that we have and show you guys some of the most broken legendaries that you can run as an elemental shaman, enhance as well as resto. We'll start with enhancement, head into Ellie and resto in that order, and we'll show you the non-spec specific ones. To take a look at enhancement, from the start we're going to have legendaries that play with our maelstrom. Like this one, it reads, increases the chance to gain stacks of maelstrom weapon by 5%, and whenever you gain a stack of maelstrom weapon, the cooldown of feral spirits is reduced by 2 seconds. So feral spirits is with a talent of elemental spirits, which is my favorite. It reduces it by 30 seconds from a 2 minute down to 1.5. But with the way that, let me get a timer. With the way that Maelstrom works for enhancement shamans, you actually get Maelstrom quite quickly. At least right now you do. That might change this in the future. So with Maelstrom, and as fast as you can get it, you're able to reduce the cooldown of feral spirits to be much faster than a minute 0.5. So I want to kind of try doing some damage to a train dummy, pop wolves, and then start the timer. And the whole point of this, I want to kind of try to get as much Maelstrom as possible. Just playing the class, playing the spec as I normally would doing damage. Not really trying to shorten it, but rather playing the spec as it was kind of intended. So about 29 seconds, 30 seconds have passed, and I only have 11 seconds left of my wolves. So if I get lucky enough, I could get wolves back before the 40-second mark. There it is. So 39, but I guess on average you would have 40-second wolves if you are running elemental spirits. With how short this cooldown is for wolves down to 40 seconds, I think talents like Earth and Spike and Ascendance would be more often picked because you don't need as short of wolves. The wolves are great and they have all that elemental damage, which you can use with other legendaries that work with elemental damage. But if you want to go Ascendance and have short wolves that are short down to maybe, instead of 2 minutes, it'll be maybe a minute 0.3, minute 0.5, somewhere around that, you might actually have wolves line up better with your Ascendance. So you'll have an Ascendance with wolves, then a later time you'll have wolves by themselves, and then again Ascendance with wolves, which also gives so much extra maelstrom and all the extra auto attacks, and it just might combine and line up together better. But this seems like a really strong legendary because of how fast to generate maelstrom, and this is without like a shaman with any amazing gear. This is just literally gear that you spawn in with at the very start of the vent tier thing. So this seems like a strong legendary off the bat. Then we have Bracers. Consuming 5 stacks of maelstrom weapon will reset the cooldown of Storm Strike and cause your next Storm Strike to deal 100% increased damage. So together with Storm Fury, this is quite a good legendary because you reduce the cooldown of Storm Strike quite often, and if you want to more prioritize Storm Strike damage rather than anything, then you totally can. If we were to, let's say, start at the very beginning, we want to make sure we generate as much Maelstrom as possible in order to get the most damage out of this. We'll just try to go for Storm Strike into a Lightning Bolt, into a Storm Strike. So that's a really nice combo right there. So if maybe, let's say you were missing the Battle for Azeroth version of Enhancement Shaman, where you're pressing Storm Strike a lot, then you could totally do that. So as you are able to consume 5 stacks of Maelstrom, you want to make sure not to use it right as your Storm Strike is coming off CD though. Okay, so we got Maelstrom. So how hard does a Storm Strike hit? So that hit for... Wait, it hit for 2,000 main hand and 2,000 offhand, 4,000 damage together, and normally it delivers about 2,000. So this is quite a big hit. No, yeah, this is definitely worth the big hit. This is quite bursty for enhance, and if you, let's say, want to play enhance for PvP, you might actually want to go for this bursty setup. A bunch of Storm Strikes proccing back to back. I mean, that seems really strong, and I didn't even have Wind Fury available at the time. So this together with Wind Fury would have been, I think, a really deadly combo. Another legendary we have is one that actually plays with your Lava Lash rather than your Storm Strike. Now this one I think is a trait from artifact weapon or a tier set bonus at some point. Each time your Flame Shock deals periodic damage, it increases the damage of the next Lava Lash by 10% and reduces cooldown of Lava Lash by half a second. Combined together with Hot Hand, this could be a very interesting combo. So this ability is called, just to make sure, I do have equipped, yes I do. So they're stacking Primal Lava Actuator. So I think this was actually a trade back in Legion if I'm not wrong. So I'm going to try to see if I can put Flame Shock on as many targets as I can, just so we can stack it. And you guys can see just how high this can stack overall. At 20 stacks, this is where you do the most amount of damage. Damage of next Lava Lash is increased by 20%. This is quite high amounts of damage. And this is actually quite a big hit. And together with Hot Hand, you're hitting for 5,000 non-crit. If that crit, that would be... if that crit, that would be 10,000 health of worth of damage. And I only have 22,000 health. So in a way, if you get really lucky and you get super high stacks in PvP maybe, you could totally just cleave half of someone's health off. What I want to try is, again, trying to see if I can get that fat crit. So I also want to show you how much damage this ability does if, let's say, you don't go for a Hot Hand, because this is still worth, even if you play for a playstyle with Forceful Winds, Storm Fury, Hailstorm, Sundering, and Elemental Spirits. Even if you play that kind of the original build that I usually kind of gravitate myself to, this will still be useful either way. The damage it provides plus the cooldown reduction is still quite good. So I have this at 20 stack right now. And how much damage does it hit by itself? So by itself, it does double the damage. So normally we do about 1,000 damage. Normally Lava Lash does about 538 damage on its own. Actually, well, I guess with the actuators, it is climbing up. So without them, it's about 414. And together with your Flame Tongue, which increases damage by 100%, it's 827. So it goes from 800 to 2,500. Or up to 5,000. So I want to see if I can get a crit. I'm going to really hope for a lucky crit and just try this once. See if I'm able to get it off. But I want to try to see if I can get Hot Hand proc and the full stacks of Primal Actuators and try to go for the most amount of damage possible. But we're just kind of waiting and buying our time until we get the perfect proc. And if it crits, that would be great, because I have not seen this thing crit. Please crit. No crit. Okay, we're just going to take it as it is. 5,000 fire damage in a single global for Enhancement Shaman, which is quite a bit. With so many auto attacks, you had so many little procs of damage, all these Flame Shock damage, Storm Strikes and resets, and all these other components that already amount to great damage. And with this from a single ability, it just seems like a really strong legendary. And then we have an old school favorite of some of you that played in Legion. Drop in Wind Fury Totem grants you 100% increased chance to gain Wind Fury weapon for 8 seconds. This can occur only once every minute. So this is the Legion Shaman artifact weapon ability from back in the day, where you will guarantee a bunch of Storm Strike procs on your enemy. So we can go with Storm Fury, with Forceful Winds. What we'll do is we'll get the Wolves out, we'll get the Flame Shock out, we'll get the Wolves, pop ourselves Berserking, then we'll pop Wind Fury, and then we'll Storm Strike immediately, and we'll do the hardest hitting abilities that we have off the bat. That's kind of how I think I want to do this. Berserking. Pop it, biggest damage possible, the hardest hitting abilities we can. Trying to see if we can get Storm Strikes back ASAP. And it is getting quite a lot of procs. I mean, the screen on the side, on the left side is going mad. So I really would like to try this in dungeons. I haven't got to try all these legendaries in dungeons just yet. But I would really like to see just how strong they are and how absurdly broken they are. So it'll function exactly like your Doomwind's weapon back in Legion. It'll have a minute cooldown on it. And it's synergized well because it's all about place and Wind Fury Totem, which from time to time as a shaman you will be trying to maneuver around, let's say as the boss is moving around, or as you're going from trash back to trash back. But at least you have control when you want to use it. So when the debuff is done, you'll just delay your Wind Fury later. You won't use it immediately. So that will be one small thing you will need to change up when playing your shaman instead of dungeons and raids. But I think it's still really cool. And overall, I gotta say, the Enhancement Shaman abilities so far are really, really strong. There is one more legendary I want to show you that isn't meant for enhancement, that normally you can't craft as enhancement, at least I wasn't able to. And it's an Elemental Shaman legendary that synergizes way too well with enhancement. And it's gonna be these pants. Dealing fire damage increases the damage of the next frost spell by 30%. Dealing frost damage increases the damage of the next nature spell by 25%. Dealing nature damage increases the damage of the next fire spell by 20%. So together with some like hailstorm that can increase the damage of the next frost shock. And you can even go hot hand in order to get a little bit extra fire damage if you really want to. Let's go hot hand either way. And with yourself going for lightning bolts, which is nature damage. Plus your wolves, if you go elemental spirits and you get the fire wolves or the nature wolves or the ice wolves, it all procs. It all force procs this. It's the most busted combination I've ever seen. So we're gonna pop everything available. We got the frost wolf and we got the fire wolf. So we should have the most amount of damage available from everything right now. We're gonna go for a lightning bolt into a massive, probably 5k. No, it wasn't 5k, it was only 2k slam of frost shock. Hopefully this will be a 5k this time. Yeah, so if it crits, this is going to be 5k. But yeah, this is some huge numbers. Huge damage for a lot of abilities. Just everything is just hitting so much harder. And yeah, so this one as enhancement, I feel like there's very little thinking about which abilities you use next. You're just going to throw every ability available at all times just to maintain all kinds of buffs. So I'm going to use a frost shock here. Hopefully that crits. Hasn't been critting. I guess I'm not lucky today on crits. Once I start recording the video, it's out of the window. But yeah, so everything is just benefiting off of each other in very crazy ways. You get your flame shock that benefits. I think maybe sundering may benefit too. Let's see if it does. It does. So sundering actually gets buffed by hit. Nature damage, frost damage, lava lash, which I believe lava lash might benefit with this slightly. I think it benefits very slightly. No, he does benefit, I think. Actually, I could be wrong. Maybe Lava Lash doesn't benefit. But your fire damage, nature damage abilities, and frost abilities, a variety of them benefits one another. And it comes up for crazy damage. This was originally a elemental shaman legendary that only was available to be unlocked as Ellie. But it does function for enhancement just fine. So we'll see if this one ends up actually being reworked to be only used for elemental at a later time. But for enhanced, it just seems to just buff all types of damage from you. No matter if it's a passive or if it's a dot tick or anything. It just seems really absolutely broken. And I think this is a legendary we'll actually start off with when playing our elemental. I do need to change the talent because this ability is pretty much useless. It used to be really cool at some point. I think we'll just go with Aftershock for now. So with this legendary, you would want to play a build with Ice Fury, maybe Stormkeeper, and Echo of the Elements. So you'll kind of go from, so if we read this legendary, fire damage increases damage of frost, then to nature. So there's a circle you go from fire to frost to nature. You can start at nature into fire into frost, or start from frost into nature into fire. I think the easiest way is going to be to start with a big old lava burst into a flame shock, into an Ice Fury. Already have Stormkeeper ready, so Ice Fury into zap, into another lava burst, into a frost shock, into another zap by lightning bolt, into maybe a refresh of flame shock, into another frost shock, into a lightning bolt, lava burst, and then frost. It's a whole thing. So we'll try it as best as we can. I feel like I'll end up messing it up, but we'll give it a good old fashioned run either way. We're trying to make sure to min-max it into a frost shock right after, into another lightning bolt, into a lava burst since we have that available, into another lightning bolt, into a flame shock, into a frost shock, into an earth shock, into a lava. Oh, and we're missing one. We missed one. But you could see like the kind of the spin circle or thing we get to use here, and it's pretty big brain with a high haste build. This can be quite strong. What I like about this is lightning bolts empower your next either flame shock or your next lava burst. And if you're able to go for lava burst into a full setup with Ice Fury, into a maybe lightning bolt, into more damage right after, big Earthshock maybe to follow. Yeah, so with frost shocks it's going to be kind of hard to really get a lot of that damage out. But I think it's going to be fine. I think with a big brain play, right? The biggest brain play, somebody will figure out the proper perfect rotation in order to maximize the damage uptime. But this seems like a really strong kind of hit all legendary between enhanced and elemental. So many abilities just kind of weaving off of one another and buffing one another. And it makes you play a talents like Ice Fury, which is kind of cool to kind of try to incorporate. It's really messy right now. I think with higher haste and better gear, you might be able to get a lot more value out of this stuff. But This is really, really cool. I think it's very strong, like 30% more damage, 20% and 25. That just seems busted, especially as enhancement. Then we have shoulders, which are more designed for AoE. When you consume 6 or more stacks of fulmination, which comes from your lightning bolts, as you lightning bolt or get mastery overload procs of lightning bolt, you build stacks of fulmination, which above the damage of the next Earthshock. And it's kind of like a similar system that we now have with the game currently in BFA, where you have Maelstrom Bar, but the Earthshock damage is not going to be nearly as big. I mean, that one crit, that one did quite a bit, but normally it wouldn't be that big of damage. But yeah, so as you get a proc for your 6 or more stacks of fulmination, your next Earthquake will do 250% additional damage. Now this one kind of plays against the AoE playstyle of Elemental. Each time Chain Lightning hits more than one target, the cast time of your Earthquake is reduced by 20%, and the damage is increased by, well, it says 0, but it's actually gets increased, I think, by 20, so you can increase it by 100. So in a pure AoE situation where you want to have the strongest Earthquake, this will be kind of tough because you have to use Lightning Bolts in order to use an Earthshock in order to drop down an Earthquake. And prior to an Earthquake, you'll probably want to get some Chain Lightnings in. So you'll Lightning Bolt single target, you'll Chain Lightning until you have the strongest buff for your Earthquake, you'll Earthshock, and drop an Earthquake down right after. I think this is a good legendary for maybe cleave fights, right? Where you're going to be mostly focusing on one target, but you want to drop an Earthquake that will do damage to enemies in the area. This could be a good one. It could also probably be good for PvP because Earthquake instacast can knock down your enemies, so that could maybe be good. Let's say if you're standing in one area and melee is standing on you, maybe it could be used there. But it's an interesting legendary, but I don't know how good it will be. And because Blizzard is very creative, we have a legendary with a very similar effect, but a different purpose. When you consume 6 or more stacks of fulmination with Earthshock, I'm trusting you, this is not the same legendary. You gain Lava Surge and increase the damage of the next Lava Burst by 6%. So this actually doesn't go into the details of this legendary, so let me show you. You'll go for an Earthshock, which will actually give you Lava Surge, so your next Lava Burst is instant, and a buff, Wind Speaker's Lava Resurgence, so your next few Lava Bursts do 30% more damage. So this is obviously a single target legendary, as you can tell. It'll be kind of like a filler legendary whenever you have fulminations. You'll probably keep a couple charges of Lava Burst available before you use this legendary, right? You'll Earthshock, and you'll want to make sure you have at least 2 stacks of Lava Burst, and hopefully with Mastery procs, you'll be able to get a lot of value out of it. I want to try this legendary together with Echoing Shock because I think this would be a really strong combo. So we'll make sure we have Flame Shock up. We'll go for Earthshock into Echoing Shock into a Lava Burst, so we should have another Lava Burst flying right after. And we can kind of rapid fire a bunch of Lava Bursts while the buff is up. So this could be like a really bursty setup for Elemental Shaman. Of course, you're thinking, what if you use Ascendance with it? Ascendance, I feel like, takes a little bit of a setup. I don't know if you'll use this together with Ascendance. You probably will end up doing so. But it's like, once you have the fulmination ready, right? Once you have fulmination ready, you'll Earthshock, and you have yourself just a few seconds available in order to maximize the value of that Lava Burst, like 13 seconds. So maybe with a big Bloodlust buff, you might be able to go into Ascendance, Earthshock to proc it, and then just start rapid firing as many Lava Bursts as you can. Maybe in that situation, you might be able to get a lot of value, but I think this is more of a legendary to get intermittent, kind of like intermittent bursts of Lava Bursts rather than just the biggest possible wombo combo. But I could be proven wrong as this comes out. But while not the most original effect, you know, use double dipping into that fulmination playstyle and relying off of fulmination to proc it, it is a pretty strong legendary. And finally, we have the legendary ring, Flame Shock, damage over time, critical strikes, reduces the cooldown of Fire Elemental by 1 second, and Flame Shock has a 30% increased chance to critically strike. Now, on my Shaman, I don't have a lot of crits, so I'm not going to get a lot of value out of this. I will try to do this for as long as I can, drop in my Elemental, and I'm just going to Flame Shock the enemies. Normally, the Fire Ele is 2.5 minutes CD, and I think with this, it comes down to maybe 1.5 minutes CD. So I think with a high crit build, you could maybe make this a minute-long cooldown, right? It's going to be a little over a minute 30, yeah, so it's all right. It's not the strongest, but with high enough crit, you definitely could get some value out of it. I think like 20% crit minimum, so you have a 50% chance to crit stuff. That will actually be, I think, really strong. But definitely not the strongest in the whole Elemental Shaman row. And then we have the Restoration Shaman Legendaries. Now, Resto Shaman is actually quite a cool spec. I like some of the things that are happening with it in this next expansion. I don't really know if it's going to be strong or not, but I'm excited for it either way. But some of the legendaries that Resto is getting, oh boy, if you thought Restoration Shaman was long forgotten by Blizzard, somebody out there loves you, because you get, first of all, a cloak, where your Earth Shield healing is increased by 300% if your Earth Shield target is below 20% health. And Healing Wave adds a stack of Earth Shield to your target up to a maximum of 9 stacks. Now, this ability doesn't work properly. There's parts of it that work. So the healing effect does work. Normally, Earth Shield, when your enemy, takes damage from something, it will heal him for 460. At 50%, this number goes up to about 2,000 heal a pop. Yeah, so 2,000 heal a pop. I mean, if I were to, let's say, be out questing the world and I pull a bunch of mobs, they wouldn't be able to get my health below 50 as long as I have my Earth Shield. The second effect of this legendary doesn't work. It's the when you use Healing Wave on a target with Earth Shield, you can get back those stacks of Earth Shield that again spent from attacks. That part right now does not work. But imagine how strong that would be for a Shaman going into the next expansion, just always maintaining your tank with this Earth Shield. And if your tank ever dips low, they always have a powerful heal at all times. The next legendary is going to be in these gloves. Every 4 casts of Riptide, also apply a Riptide to another friendly target near your Riptide target. I'll Riptide him once, I'll Riptide him twice, and I'll Riptide him enough times until I also get a Riptide. No Riptide here, so the next Riptide should also give me or another guard Riptide. We'll check to see. I got a Riptide, he has a Riptide, we all have a Riptide. So in a maybe PvP situation, this will be definitely more mana efficient with maintaining Riptides on everybody. One of the more quaint Restoration Shaman legendaries, but still a very useful one. Then we have a very interesting one that's going to be super strong for AoE, also really good for Mythic Plus, but also good for raids. Healing Wave and Healing Surge increase the healing done by your next chain heal by 0%, stacking up to 0 times. It's not actually 0. It is going to be by 10%, stacking up to 5 times. So Healing Wave 1, Healing Wave 2, Healing Wave 3, Healing Wave 4, and Healing Wave 5 will make the chain heal do 50% more healing. Together with Heal Tide, it'll make it so every time the heal jumps, it does not get reduced, and will do 10% more healing. So you could just do a massive heal to your party. Massive, massive heal. This is, again, another good one that is good for either raids, or it can also be good in dungeons to get the whole party, especially if they're closely stacked, up and running, and max health ASAP. This seems really, really strong overall. I actually like this one a lot. I'm surprised how many AoE legendaries Restoration Shamans are getting, but if you thought as Resto you weren't getting love, yeah, this is quite nice. This is quite nuts. But wait, there's more. If you thought that one was busted, here is the biggest cooldown, the biggest, strongest legendary I've seen so far for Resto. After using Manatite Totem, the cast time of Healing Wave and Chain Heal is reduced by 50%, and the mana cost of Chain Heal and Healing Wave is reduced by 100% for 10 seconds. So not only when you drop down Manatite Totem do you gain 100% more mana regen to everybody in your party for 8 seconds, after dropping it for 10 seconds, you basically have a very similar effect to Innervate for Druids, where there's no mana cost, but only for Healing Wave and Chain Heal. So whether it's single target or AoE, just spam the hell out of it. And they're also reduced in cast time by 50%. So if, let's say, I go for Healing Rain, I have a couple of the tidal waves available. I'm just going to drop it on this guy and try to heal him as much as I can. Big heals, huge heals. Imagine this together with a, I don't know, imagine this buff together with Bloodlust. You could really top off an ally, a bunch of them, or just chain heal everybody back to full. This is a really strong legendary. I like this extra effect to your Healing Tide. Mana Tide. Not only does it make Manatite Totem still a great utility, but now it makes it a cooldown for you to use in order to get everybody up and running in a pinch. So now there's a bit more planning with this ability. Instead of just being more for mana, you can kind of use it for 2 purposes inside of raids. This seems like a really, really strong combo. Now I want to kind of show off some of the non-spec specific legendaries that we have for Shaman, so you guys can get an idea what else do we have to work with. First of all, we have this helm using Storm Strike, or it will be Lava Burst for Elemental, or Riptide for Resto. Has a 5% chance, or 6 or 7 depending on the spec, to proc Ascendance. Now I've had over 40 on stream over 40 storm strikes on a single target. Someone in chat actually counted, like 41, and not a single one of them proc Ascendants. I am yet to see Ascendants appear at all, and I can be hitting a train dummy until the Ascendants finally procs, but I want to say that maybe this effect either has such a low chance that it's just almost never happening, or it just doesn't work yet. I almost want to lean towards it probably doesn't work just yet. So far, I have never been able to ascend, and maybe one day I'll be able to ascend. Like maybe in this video, I'll do one more Storm Strike, because I could sit here forever just smacking the train dummy. One more Storm Strike. Nothing. I am almost convinced that it doesn't work properly yet. It's really cool legendary, the idea behind it, but I don't know if this won't be used much by shamans. I think in a cinch or a pinch, this could be really good. I think restoration shamans might have an easier time getting this out because Riptide has 2 charges and you can get more Riptides out throughout a fight. So maybe Resto might be able to get more value out of this. But for Elemental and Enhancement, yeah, I don't think this is going to be that good. We have the chest with an Anima ability that's available in Torghast. Cast in Chain Heal makes the next Chain Lightning instant cast. Cast in Chain Lightning makes the next Chain Heal instant cast. Now, I didn't realize that this ability meant it literally. So, next ability I cast, whether it's Chain Heal or Chain Lightning, will be cast. But the rest of them, as long as I use them in that combo, will all be instant. So, Chain Lightning is an enhancement. And now we can walk up to a sentry and instant cast. But wait, I can go back to train dummies and chain lightning again. But wait, I can go back to the sentries and chain heal. But wait, so yeah, so this effect never stops. And it cycles back and forth all the time. So I feel like as a restoration shaman, or even elemental shaman, or even enhancement shaman, this is actually quite a nuts, absolutely nuts legend. Is so unique. It is so specific in situations where it's actually going to be good. I think a restoration shaman could solidly use this, right? Instant cast chain heals for resto could be huge, as long as you have enemies like in mythic pluses, right? You'll just run up, you'll chain lightning enemies that are in the area. It doesn't even need to be like multiple enemies. As long as it hits somebody, it's insta cast and it makes the other ability insta. So you can kind of have chain heal available for your party, and you'll chain lightning. It might be very mana expensive for restoration to do this inside of trash packs, regularly just casting massive AoE heals on allies. But if mana is not a concern for you and just trying to get through the enemies is, between chain lightnings and instant cast chain heals, this could totally be the play. It is so weird that this works, but it does, and it's kind of glorious. And I think Shaman is the first spec that utilizes like such a wacky legendary. And this is not spec specific, so I wonder if there will be any builds around this whatsoever. Then we have Boots, where Earth Elemental has a permanent Earthquake attached to it. Now Earth Elemental doesn't really do that much damage, right? We don't really know Earth Ele is the strongest hitting Elemental ever, but with this change, the Earthquake for Earth Elemental is actually quite a decent damage every few seconds. And it's also AoE. AoE damage. Has a chance to knock people down, so maybe in PvP you could just send it at an enemy healer and he could just harass the enemy healer, knocking him down from time to time. Would be hilarious. So this actually is a decent legendary for AoE, and even with single target you would drop down Earth Ele just for the extra nature damage. I think this could be quite strong. Actually, I'm actually think this is a very underrated legendary. I think a lot of people are gonna mark it as, yeah, it's not that good, but I think it's actually gonna be underrated and somehow become really strong for whatever reasons. I don't know why I like it so much, but yeah, your Earth Elemental cannot wail on enemies while Earthquakes are constantly under him. This is going to be another legendary that is available from the Tower of Torghast. And finally, we have a ring that's very similar to what we have right now in BFA. Bloodlust or any similar effects last an additional 20 seconds on you, and you gain extra 10% haste from any Bloodlust type effect. So yeah, this one is quite good. It's just the same as a trait available in BFA right now, but I think it's a little stronger. A whole minute in Bloodlust for 40% haste is really strong. I mean, normally you're in Bloodlust for 40 seconds, so everybody's going to be Bloodlust for 40 seconds, and then 20 seconds afterwards, you're still going, you're still smashing, you're still hitting, and it's going to be nuts. The cooldown reduction on your abilities is so low when Bloodlust is this high up, and it's going to be the biggest burst possible. If this is available in PvP, there's no way, dude. There's no way this could be good in PvP, because enhancement together with shamanism have a 10 seconds last, what, 20 seconds longer, 30 seconds 40, what is it, So it'll be a 30 seconds, so it adds 20 extra seconds. 30 seconds Bloodlust buff. That gives you 30% haste instead of 20. For 30 seconds you have burst, and for 30 seconds you don't. The 30 seconds there's no way this will make it to live. So yeah, very cool legendary. It seems really strong. I don't know why it's so strong, but it looks like shamans in general are getting some really wacky and extremely strong legendaries. Thank you guys so much for checking out this video on shaman legendaries. I'd like to hear from you guys which ones you thought was your favorite or which ones you think is going to be busted. I'm actually very surprised with how strong all these are. I get to mess around with a bunch of them on stream and in my free time, but a lot of these are looking actually quite good. I cannot wait to see what rogues have, because you have mages with massive Legos, you have your protection warriors with huge defensives, and now you have enhancement shamans with the wackiest abilities I've ever seen in my life. So I wonder if rogue will be able to stand toe to toe with any of these other classes at all. I actually am a huge fan of what Blizzard has done with Lego so far. I hope they balance them out, so you won't have the most egregious and the worst possible legendaries, really overtaking it. I really hope they buff some of the ones that are not nearly as strong, like that fire elemental one with flame shock doesn't seem that strong for Ellie. But this is the legendaries in the alpha, and pretty sure most of them are going to change before the release of the game. But thank you guys so much for checking this video. Let me know what you thought about the shaman legendaries, and I'll see all of you guys in another video.